welcome back to another tutorial. In this one we're going to be drawing this Yorkshire Terrier's ear, and I'm using coloured pencils on a hot pressed watercolour paper. Okay, so I want to start by mapping in the shape of the sort of inside of the ear, just to make sure that I've got that accurate before I start adding all of the hairs and everything. So essentially what you want to do is just look for the different shapes that you can see, and I'm just outlining them at the moment. I'm using the Nugget from Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils. I'm just using a light pressure to get those shapes in. And all I'm doing is just drawing around the hairs that are overlapping. So it's really important when you're drawing realistic animals that you get all of your proportions right. So this is why I like to get this sort of step in first. I use the grid method for all of my outlines and drawings, so that makes it slightly easier when focusing on these little areas like this, because you only have to really look at like one square at a time if you want to. I do have a video on my channel all about how I use the grid method for my drawings, but if you have any questions, let me know. Down here is quite dark as well. Just drawing in the darkest parts at the moment, and then it's quite pinky, so I'm going to go in then and fill in the rest of the outline with a pinker pencil. I don't know if that's the right words to use, but I don't really want to use pink, but I don't want to use brown either. It's just drawing in the little in-betweeny sort of parts where the inside of the ear is showing through the fur that is overlapping. It's really dark and miserable today. It's not nice to be drawing. Well, it's nice to be drawing, but not in the dark, you know. think it's slowly starting. It's not a word. Slowly starting to brighten up now. So probably by the time we've finished this year, the sun will be out, hopefully. It's just literally drawing over the darker shadows that we can see. I'm gonna go in now with, like I said, a sort of pink pencil. I think, yeah, I'm gonna use this one from the Luminance range. It's warm. I can't speak today. Warm is 5%. Just where the inside is, and where you can see it's got like a pinky tone to it. Just doing that really lightly. So I'll blend it later with some browns and things probably. That's all that we're going to do for that part now, and then we will come back to it later. So I'm going to start the fur. I'm going to start with a layer of the buff titanium from the Luminance pencils. If you don't have this pencil, I would definitely recommend it. I use it for, I think, pretty much every single one of my drawings. If you don't have it, though, you can use ivory from the polychromos if you've got those pencils, and just do like a light layer. And that's what I did before I bought this one. And yeah, just see what pencils you've got and sort of try and find similar ones. It's just a really light, it's like, well, just a light ivory, I guess. I've got a free coloured pencil guide linked in the description. You can download that. I talk you through sort of what different types of coloured pencils mean. Like oil-based, wax-based, how they work with each other, how to find the right pencils, and I have a list on there of all of my sort of must-have coloured pencils for my animal drawings. So if you would be interested in that, it's quite helpful. Just click the link in the description. Okay, actually before I start this bit, so the top of the ear you can see is like flopping over. So this part is underneath, So it's in a bit of a shadow there, so I'm going to draw that in as well. Going to use, what colour? I think I'll use Bista from Polychromos pencils. And I'll just draw that in really lightly as well. Just so that, again, we don't really lose the shape of it. I've also linked as well, I've done a scan of the outline that I drew, so if you wanted to use that to practice you can, or it might be able to help you sort of freehand your outline, or you can trace over it. So I'm just rubbing out bits at a time so that I don't lose it. I find if I rub out like too big of a section, then you're starting again with the outline essentially. Don't know if you can see there, so I wanted a really light pressure, so I held my pencil lower down. Just started using like the side of the pencil rather than the tip. Okay, now that's done, go back with the buff titanium and finish colouring in the top bit. I want to make sure that you can't see any of the graphite pencil lines, because they'll really show through this colour because it's so light, and then you won't be able to rub them out. Oops. It's fine. I'm always dropping my pencils, it's so bad. I use brown ochre 10% for this little line there. It's just where the fur is sticking up behind the flap as well. And then buff titanium then. I find this fur type is quite hard. I definitely struggled in the past, and I found it quite tricky so far already. So that's why I wanted to do a tutorial on it, because I know when I first started I couldn't do it. Didn't feel confident with it. Found it a bit easier in graphite pencil than coloured pencil. Don't think... Oh, I've only drawn a tiny Yorkshire Terrier in coloured pencils. It was literally like the whole drawing was like that big. And I was really happy with that, to be fair, but obviously I can get a lot more detail in on this size. This is an A4 size drawing. I find that once you get this sort of base colour down, it seems a lot less daunting. Don't know why. I don't know if it's just because, you know, there's already some sort of colour on the page. It doesn't, like, it feels like there's less pressure, I guess. But I like to do that if I know there's going to be a part of the drawing that I'm kind of struggling with, or that I know is kind of going to take me a long time. And if I sort of get in just a really rough base layer, then it feels like I'm already like halfway there, which I'm not. It still takes a long time after that, but that's how it feels in my brain. I'm using the Vista again, so I'm going to move down here now. I'm just drawing in, don't know if you can see, there's like this big shadowy sort of shape, and get that in, and then I'll do the buff titanium again. That's the thing with drawing, you've really got to just sort of try and simplify it as much as you can. Like, work on smaller sections at a time if you're struggling. Just makes it a lot easier. You've got to try and think as well, like, you're just drawing shapes and lines. That's all it is. And when it comes to the end, it'll look like a realistic animal or person or whatever you're drawing. But if you try and think too much about that and overthink it, you'll probably be quite stressed out. Obviously people work in different ways. Like, some people probably prefer to do like a really big section at a time, whereas I kind of like to work in smaller areas and finish those and then move on to the next. I just picked up the nugget again to go over this bit because it's quite dark, just so that I know where it is. And also, see, I've lost it already. This bit, I think, just lightly. I'm going to do the buff titanium now. I want to use now this beige red from Polychromos pencils, and you can see there's like a hint of pink in some of the areas, so like just by here where it sort of goes from the inside to the hair that's coming out, that's quite pink. So I'm just pressing a little bit harder in here where it's more sort of concentrated, and then lifting my pencil so that it fades out. Up in this shadow as well, a little bit pink. Also down here. Up the top. Anywhere that you can sort of see that it's a little bit like peachy, or sometimes you can see like the pink, like that bit there. You can tell it's got a lot of pink in it. Just add it in. So you don't need much, but it makes a difference. Just gonna add it lightly into this inside of the ear as well. I think I'm going to use Bista again now. I'm filling some of the hairs at the top. Kind of like what I just did down here. Oh no, actually, I'm going to use Ivory from Polychromos. Excuse the fact that I'm using the world's smallest pencil. Yeah, that's better. It needed a bit more colour, I think, before adding the details. And down here as well. You can get like pencil extenders, but whenever I look for them, all the reviews are always mixed on like what pencils fit and what ones don't and things. So I've just never bought them. I just go around using tiny pencils. Okay, now I'm going to use the Vista. Going over just the hairs that we mapped out earlier and some new ones as well. These don't have to be exactly right. The main thing is sort of getting the texture right and everything. Going over some of the inside of the ear. Like I said earlier, I'll probably go over it with some browns later. It's just what I'm doing now. You'll need to go a lot darker, but just building them up. I'm using quite like short sort of strokes when I'm doing this. Sort of like a flicky motion. Does that make sense? Just pressing a bit harder now where that shadow is, where the ear flips over. literally just drawing in like the darker bits and the shadows. This part here is quite grey. I'm going to use Water Amber 10% from Polychromos as a base there. And then I'm also going to use that up here. You can see some parts of his hair look quite grey. So this is a really good like warm grey colour. And then you can go over it on top later. This is another one of those pencils that I just think you've got to have. I use them for pretty much every drawing. It's not really down here so much, only a little bit by there. Oh, and down here I think. What I want to do now is I need to make it darker, so I'm going to use the brown ochre 10%, especially for this part. You can start to finish it off then. Pressing a bit harder now. And down here as well. So now what I'm going to do is I want to go darker on this inside part and get it more or less finished, so then we'll have a better idea of how dark we can go with the rest of the year then. So I'm going to use Burnt Umber from Polychromos. It's like a reddy brown, it's quite dark, and go over these very darkest parts and then we'll blend them out. Using like a medium sort of pressure now. Not too hard, not too light either. I want to use a bit now of Burnt Sienna from Polychromos. So similar to Burnt Umber, but it's a lot more red than it is brown. Use that in this corner. It's perfect for that bit. And also down here. I think I'm going to use it to help blend out the top as well. The pencil's quite weirdly sharpened. There we go, that's better. Sounds silly, but I had like too much of a point then and it just wasn't going down nicely onto the paper, so I just pressed hard on a scrap piece of paper and wore it down a bit. I'm going to use the Warm Earth 5% again, just to help blend it together. use burnt umber again just because I don't feel like it's dark enough still. I'm going to use the ivory again now, just at the top, because I think it needs to be a bit brighter. Just blending it into his face as well. I think just going to use the Vista now, because we need to make it a bit darker so that it matches everything else. So I'm just kind of going over all this bit. No, I'll do that bit in Vista as well. Just going over what I did earlier, pretty much. starting to look better already now. You just have to make the shadows a little bit darker. But I think I don't want to say we're pretty much there, but it's coming together now at least. I think I'll use the burnt umber again for this bit, and I'm just going to go over the very darkest parts of the year. I'm not pressing too hard with this colour because it's very pigmented. Obviously it's going on top of a lot of layers already. I don't want it to be too dark. Well, I want it to be dark, but it needs to sort of blend in nicely with all the other colours. think this very top bit, although it is dark, I think I need to blend it out a little bit. I'm using the almost 5%. Sorry, I had a hiccup then. Just sort of looking at it now to try and see what needs doing, because I think it looks really good now. I think it looks good on its own, but then compared to this here, it's still quite light. Then in the photo I've got, it is because of where the light is hitting him. So yeah, I think I might leave it there for now, because say on its own it does look good. And then I think maybe once I draw like the nose and the rest of the face, I'll maybe come back to it and see if I do need to make it any darker or not. I think it looks good. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I've given you some tips on how to draw Yorkshire Terrier fur. Got any questions? Pop them in the comments, and subscribe to my channel to see more drawing videos, tutorials and tips. Thank you.